Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is June Collier, the instructor for the 5-day credit repair challenge. I know that many of you have been anticipating this day, but the day is here and we are going to cover how to fix and repair your credit over the next 5 days. And so I'm excited to be here. I hope that you are eagerly anticipating the trainings over the next 5 days so that you can start moving your credit score to that coveted 850. So we're going to be working on that. We're going to be talking about that over the next several days, and this is how it's going to work. Today, I'm going to cover the first factor of your credit score. I'm going to provide you with some lessons, some understandings, and then at the end of the training today, I'm going to give you a small assignment to do for the day. So I said that you can fix your credit in less than 30 minutes per day. Let's go ahead and jump into this. I'll be sharing my screen with you. So let me do a quick screen share here to pull up the presentation, and we will go from there. So as you can see on the screen, day one is all about payment history. Payment history is what we're going to be talking about in day one of the credit repair challenge. Now, payment history is simply how well you have paid your debt, how well you've paid your debt, how well you've paid your bills. Have you paid them on time? And this is the most commonly known factor of your credit score. So today, I'm not sharing anything with you that you don't already know. Everybody knows your credit score comprises of how well you've paid your bills. Have you paid them on time? It is a big impact on your score. In fact, it is the biggest impact on your credit score, the largest impact on your credit score. Now, throughout this training, there's going to be several things that I'm going to say that are going to be key factors, things that you want to write down, things that you want to pay attention to. And this next bullet point is one of those key factors. Payment history is measured in increments of 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, and even 180 days. So it's measured in increments starting off with 30 days. Now, why is that important? That's important because you could be 25 days late on paying a bill and it not be reported on your credit file. Now, that's important, okay? Because your credit file only tracks 30-day lates, 60-day lates, 90-day lates. So if you're late, but you never are 30 days late, then it will not or should not show up on your credit report. And so now you may still be charged a late fee from the creditor. So for example, your credit card statement, your credit card bill is due on the 1st, and you end up paying the credit card bill on the 15th. Well, you're 15 days late, and you're going to be charged a late assessment fee, but it will not show up on your credit report. It should not show up in your credit report because you were never 30 days late, and your credit report reports 30 days late. So this is sort of a loophole around being late on bills. I'm not saying that you should be late on bills just because of that loophole, but it's something that you want to pay attention to, as well as when we get into this later in today's training, you want to make sure that anything on your credit report that's reporting late, if you were 25 days late instead of 30 days late, then that should be removed because you were not technically 30 days late. So payment history, let's go on. Let's talk about your credit score because I've got to set the base. I got to set the foundation for you on what a good score is and how the credit score system works. So I've labeled everything from best, excellent, good, fair, poor, and bad credit. Obviously, the best credit is 800 to 850. Excellent credit is 750 to 799. Good credit is 700 to 749. Fair credit is 650 to 699. Poor credit is 600 to 649. And then bad credit is 300 to 599. So these are the different areas of your credit score. Obviously, our goal is to get you to that good credit, then that excellent credit, and the best credit. So let's talk a little bit about the credit scores. What you're going to notice is that the highest that you can get is an 850. It doesn't get any higher than that. The lowest you can get on your credit score is a 300. So here's what that means. If you subtract 300 from 850, you have a total of 550 points that are available for you to build your credit score. Now, here's one of those points that you need to write down. This is one of those other points. You have a total of 550 points available to build your credit score. And so you got to think of your credit as a video game. You are trying to gather or rack up as many points as you possibly can in this video game. And you have a maximum of 550 points that you can pull or build for your credit score. All right, let's keep moving. Let's talk about payment history. And what I want to talk about is how we address the whole score. You're going to hear me talk about this over the next 5 days, because there are many factors in your credit score, in determining your credit score. What we address is we address the entire score, the whole score. We don't address just a portion of the score, okay? So that's important. I just told you that your credit score will range between 300 to 850. That also meant that the available points available to you for your credit report or your credit score is 550 points. Payment history counts 35% of your credit score. So 35% of that 550 points is what makes up payment history. Payment history has a max of 192.5 points. That's the maximum points that you can get on payment history, okay? And so you need to know that. You need to know that as you go after payment history, the maximum you can get is 192.5 points. It is the largest factor of your credit score. This is why so many people focus on it, because it's the largest factor of your credit score. It's 35%. It's the largest factor. However, even if you had perfect payment history, you would still only have a 492.5 score if everything else was zero. So remember, it starts off with 300. If we had perfect payment history, which is 192.5 points, you would still have poor or bad credit at 492.5 points. So why am I addressing this and pushing it so hard? Because do not get bogged down on payment history. We're going to talk about payment history today, but you got 4 more days of things that you're going to learn that go along with payment history. Because remember, payment history is worth 35% of your credit score, but there's 65% that's left. And so I don't want you to forget about the 65%. That is the key on this particular slide to understanding and fixing and repairing your score. All right? Now, what type of things show up on your credit report? We need to address that and see what shows up on our credit report. Things like credit cards. If you got credit cards, they're going to report to your credit bureaus. Retail accounts. These are going to be things like Sears, Macy's, Rooms to Go. These are all the store accounts that you have. Those are going to be your retail accounts. They will show up on your credit report. Installment loans. Maybe you got a car loan. Maybe you've got student loans. Installment loans will show up on your credit report. Mortgages are going to show up on your credit report. And then there are going to be other things that can show up on your credit report as well. If you have a bankruptcy will show up on your credit report. If you have any type of lawsuit against you, that may show up on your credit report. Tax liens. If you've got a tax lien against you, that can show up on your credit report. And I've even seen child support, back payments and child support can actually show up on your credit report. So these are just a few of the different types of accounts that can show up on your credit report. Now let's talk about late payments for a moment. We're going to talk about what does the credit reporting bureaus, what do they have and what do they report as it relates to the negatives on your credit report? Well, the first thing that they're going to report is how late you were. So remember, 30, 60, 90, 120, every 30 days, they're going to be showing how late you were on that particular bill. They're going to also show how much you owe on that particular bill. They're going to show how recently it occurred, and they're going to show how many late payments you have on your credit report. Now, why are these things important? These things are important because all of these items can be disputed if they are incorrect. So if they're reporting that you were 30 days late, but you were only 25 days late, that's something that you can dispute. If they're reporting that you owe $4,000 and you only owe $3,500, that is an item that you can dispute. If they said that this occurred 2 months ago and it occurred 5 months ago, again, these are items that you can dispute on your credit report. So what you want to do is when you look at your credit report, you want to look at the details very, very closely, because there may be some errors there. And when you find errors, those errors have to be corrected or either removed. So that's very important for you to know. The credit report also shows your on-time payment history. So your credit report is not just showing your negatives, but it's also showing your positives. Now, that's important because as you begin to fix and repair your credit, what we're going to do is we're going to also start building or rebuilding your credit by adding positive credit to your credit report. So we don't want to just focus on removing negatives and not putting positive information back on your credit. Now, we'll talk about that in the next couple of days, but that's something that you want to be mindful of, is that not only are we going to look at removing negatives, but we're also going to look at adding positives to your credit report, and that's going to speed up the process of improving your credit score. Now, we're going to take a little sidebar here just for a minute, and I want to talk about what happens if you just can't pay your bills. We've all been in that situation where, maybe we got more month than money, and we just don't have the money to pay all of our bills. I want to give you a suggestion so that you find yourself being strategic with your credit. And being strategic is extremely important. So do not juggle paying bills. Don't juggle paying bills. And I'm going to explain that here in a minute. Decide who is not going to get paid. If you find yourself in a bind and you find that you got more month than you have money, then you've got to be strategic. And in your strategy, you have to sit down and determine who's not going to get paid. I know that sounds kind of weird, but you got to decide who's not going to get paid and then pay everybody else. So make a list of all of your bills. Make a list of who you owe. And if you are short, you've got to look on that list and determine who is not going to get paid and then pay everybody else. And so you may be saying, well, June, I'm already doing that. I already know that. I'm already, I decided who wasn't going to get paid. But here's the problem when you're juggling paying bills. I'm going to give you 3 credit cards, and we're going to use this in an example. Let's just say that you have a Visa, a MasterCard, and a Discover, and you're not able to pay all 3. Here's what typically happens. A person may pay the Visa and MasterCard on month 1 and not pay Discover. Well, then 30 days later, Discover is calling and screaming and yelling about, you haven't paid me on time. And so now the next month they pay Discover and MasterCard, but they missed the payment on Visa. So now on month 2, at the end of month 2, Visa's calling and Visa's saying, you haven't paid me. And so now they pay Visa and MasterCard or Discover, but they don't pay MasterCard. So now on the 3rd month, they've missed MasterCard. And so when you are juggling bills, what ends up happening is you end up getting late payments on 3 creditors versus just 1. Okay, so don't be pressured by bill collectors. If you can pay 2 creditors and not pay the third, then the third one is the one that you don't pay, and you continually not pay that one. Okay? Here's the reason why. At some point in the future, you're going to get back on your feet and you're going to be able to pay all your bills on time. And at some point in the future, you may go back and start working on fixing your credit. It is easier to later fix 1 or 2 accounts than it is 10. See, many people, when we look at their credit report, they're late or have late payments on 10 different accounts. And that's because they were robbing Peter to pay Paul, and they kept going back and forth. And this is what we call juggling your bills. So if you get in a situation where you can't pay all of your bills, you have to figure out what 1, 2, or 3 people or vendors you're not going to pay. And you got to stick with that decision and just not pay them. I know this personally. I went through a situation where I had multiple vendors that needed to be paid, and I wasn't able to pay all of them. And so here's what I did. I decided who wasn't going to get paid, and I decided who was going to get paid. And during that time, I paid Capital One and American Express. Those are the 2 credit cards that I made sure were paid. My other credit cards, my other loans, those loans did not get paid. And I stuck with that decision. When I began to fix and repair my credit, having Capital One and American Express helped me out tremendously, because these were credit cards that had long history of on-time payment. Now, I'm going to talk about that in the next couple of days, but make sure that you use this strategy of determining who's not going to get paid and stick with that if you find yourself in a situation where you can't pay your bills on time. Great tip for you. All right, let's talk about the Fair Credit Reporting Act, also known as FCRA. I want to talk about this because you're going to hear me talking about the Fair Credit Reporting Act a lot. And basically, this is a law to protect you against the misuse or the erroneous misreporting of your credit information. So without the Fair Credit Reporting Act, these creditors and credit bureaus can put anything on your credit report. And so this law was created to protect you against that misuse. And so you need to know the law. You need to exercise your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And so there are several different rights that you have as a consumer under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And we're going to exercise our rights. We're going to talk about that as we go along. But part of the Fair Credit Reporting Act is that all erroneous, all outdated, all information that isn't tied to you, it has to be removed. And there are rules and regulations on what the credit bureaus must follow in order to have it on your credit report. And if they don't follow those rules or it doesn't line up, then they are obligated to remove those items from your credit report. Okay, so very, very important. Many items on your credit report are removed not because necessarily it wasn't true. They are removed because of poor record keeping. All right, poor record keeping. So what you're going to find is that we're going to have some letters and things that we're going to send off. And what we're not doing, I need you to understand, what we're not doing is we're not saying that the debt is not yours. That's not what you're saying. You're not saying that the debt is not yours, but what you're doing is you're asking the credit bureaus to validate that the debt is yours, to verify the information, and make sure that those credit bureaus and the creditors have kept good records and reported the information accurately. If they have not kept good records, even if some of the information is true, if they have not kept good records and they can't prove some of the things that they're supposed to prove, then those items can be removed simply because you are exercising your rights. So that's something I want you to understand as we go along and start talking about payment history and removing negative items. Now, the solution to payment history is 4 letters. There's more than 4 letters, but there's 4 basic main letters that people use when it comes to removing negative items from their credit report. The first letter is a debt validation letter. Now, a debt validation letter, there are two different types of debt validation letters. I won't get too deep into that, but there's one for the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, and then there's another one for the Fair Credit Reporting Act. The debt validation letter is simply a letter that says, hey, this debt appears on my credit report. I need you to validate that this debt is mine. I need you to make sure that this debt actually belongs to me. How did you prove, or how did you validate that the debt was mine? Okay, so that's what the debt validation letter says. It doesn't say this isn't my debt. It just says I need you to validate that this is my debt. Oftentimes, that one letter will get many things removed because either they can't validate the debt, they don't have any records, maybe it's taking too long to validate the debt. There's a lot of things that could happen that can have many things removed. This one letter has helped thousands of people, probably millions of people really, to get things off of their credit. Now, if the credit bureaus come back and they say, hey, this debt is yours, we have validated the debt, then your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that now you can send them a letter that says, okay, you say that this debt belongs to me. How did you verify that the debt belonged to me? Who did you talk to? What's their phone number? How much did they say that I owe? What was the status? So what you're now doing is you're telling the credit bureaus what was the method that you used to validate the debt and to verify that this debt was mine. That is exercising your rights, because the Fair Credit Reporting Act says you have a right to ask how did they verify your debt. The reason why we do this is because oftentimes your debt is verified or validated via a system called eOscar, which is an electronic system. It's an automated electronic system. And so this is not necessarily the proper way to verify, validate the debt. And so you want to ask them certain questions, and in the method of verification letter, it asks them specific questions that you need answers to, that they have to provide answers to. If they are not able to verify, then you have a third letter that says you have violated my rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And the Fair Credit Reporting Act says that if you can't verify, then you must remove. So now your letter is getting a little bit stronger and saying you have not done what you needed to do according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and you are now violating my rights. Remember, we're just exercising the rights. We never said that the debt was not yours. We're exercising the rights that they have to prove that the debt is yours. This is no different than the IRS. Let's just say that you are a business owner and you are writing off certain deductions on your taxes. Well, you get an audit from the IRS. An audit doesn't say that, an audit doesn't mean that you did something wrong. All an audit does is it verifies the information that you put on your taxes. Now, if you can verify the information that you put on your taxes, no problem, audit over. But if you are unable to verify some of the documents that you put on your taxes, then the IRS can say, we are going to disapprove this deduction. The deduction could have actually happened, but you had poor record keeping. So the deduction really did happen, but you had poor record keeping. You got caught up in an audit and you couldn't prove it. And so now you can't take the deduction. The same is true with your credit history. So if they can't prove it, and if they can't verify it, then it must be removed. All right. And so the last letter that you might send is the letter of intent to litigate. This is if they are still not removing it off of your credit report. You now have the opportunity to say, listen, I'm giving you a last shot at removing this from my credit because you are violating my rights and I intend to sue. So these are the four main letters that we talk about with payment history. And there are many other letters that can be used. There are a few other letters that can be used based on your situation. But these are the four letters that you will typically use in removing negative items from the payment history of your credit report. All right. Now, the last thing I want to say here is with that intent to litigate letter, do not file a lawsuit if you know that the debt legally belongs to you, okay? You are going to go through the 4 steps of these letters to exercise your rights. But if you know that this debt is actually yours and it legally belongs to you and that the information is correct, even if they haven't had the ability to verify and prove, you want to be careful of filing a lawsuit because there is a frivolous lawsuit penalty. So if you file a lawsuit and they find out that the debt is yours and that you knew that the debt was yours, there is a frivolous lawsuit penalty that can be imposed upon you. So you want to exercise the 4 letters and see if you can get some things removed. All right? And don't worry about if you can't get everything removed, because remember, this is only 35% of your credit score. There's still an entire another 65% that we're going to be talking about in day 2 through day 5. So this is really, really important that you use these 4 letters. They're going to help you remove a lot of the items off of your credit report. They may not necessarily get everything off, but that's okay. Our goal is to exercise our rights, and we exercise our rights with these 4 letters. All right? Now, let's talk about the action item that I have for you today. So today you've got an action step. Every day you're going to have an action step. Today, what I want you to do is I want you to open up an account with Credit Karma. CreditKarma.com. That's CREDIT Karma, KARMA.com. So one of the things that you need to know is you need to know your score and you need to know what negative items appear on your credit report. I start off with Credit Karma because it's free. There are other places that you can go like Credit Sesame, but we're going to just do Credit Karma. We want everybody to go to Credit Karma, pull a free report off of your off of Credit Karma. Okay, it's free and it provides what's known as a Vantage score. Now, a Vantage score is not a FICO score. There are different types of credit scores that are out there, different types of scoring systems. The most popular scoring system is the FICO score. And that is typically what the car dealerships are using, the mortgage brokers are using, the finance companies are using. They're typically using the FICO score. Now, a FICO score costs you money to pull and find out what that score is. For the training that we're going to do over the next 5 days, I'm just making everything free for you. And so going to Credit Karma, you're going to pull your Vantage score. The Vantage score will probably be somewhere between 10 to 30 points different than your FICO score. What we want to do right now is we just want to get a ballpark figure of where our score is. Okay, you want a ballpark figure. And then later on, if you decide that you want to pull your FICO score, you can go to myfico.com and pull your FICO score, but it's going to cost you. Right now, all we want to do is we want to take a look at our score. Now, let me just say this. You may have a credit card or you may have a bank that actually has your FICO score and will give you your FICO score for free. If you're in that particular situation, then great. I know that Wells Fargo, they offer free credit scores as well as Capital One. So if you have a Wells Fargo or Capital One card, you can get those free scores. But what we want to do is we want to open up a Credit Karma account today, and we want to take a look at our scores, see what our scores say, and we also want to take a look at our payment history. So this is the time to start looking at your payment history to see where they may have marked you as 30 days, 60 days, 90 days late. Also understand that with Credit Karma, it's only going to show TransUnion and Equifax. You won't see Experian here. You'll see TransUnion and Equifax. You'll also notice that your scores can differ from each credit bureau. And that is because each credit bureau may be tracking your debt a little bit differently. Also, it also means that some of your creditors may not report to all 3 bureaus. And so some bureaus may have more information than others, but your credit score is going to vary between the 3 different credit bureaus. So what I want you to do today is to pull a Credit Karma account, go look at your score, go look at your payment history. But here's what I want you to do. Do not do anything with the information. Just make note of what's on your report. They may offer you the ability to dispute the item online. You do not, and I'm going to repeat this, you do not want to dispute your items online, because if you do, you basically give up some of your rights under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, okay? So do not do that. You want to manually dispute any negative items on your credit report. Do not use the online dispute process. I know it seems easy, it seems faster, but do not do that, because it violates some of the, well, I won't say violates, but you give up some of your rights. As a consumer, you give up some of your rights if you use the online disputing process. So we're not going to use the online disputing process. All right. All right. So guys, that's all that I have for you today. Today was day 1 of the credit repair challenge. You learned that in day 1, payment history counted towards 35% of your score. There's 550 points that you have to work with. So that means that credit history, right, your payment history is worth 192.5 points. We also learned that there are 4 primary letters that we can use to exercise our rights. We have the debt validation letter, the method of verification letter. We have the violation of my fair credit reporting rights, and then the intent to litigate letter. So we've got those 4 letters. Those are the 4 primary letters. There are other letters, but those are the 4 primary letters that can be used on your to remove things from your payment history. Now, last thing, you want to go pull your Credit Karma to take a look at what negatives may be on your credit report, and to get a Vantage score, which gives you a ballpark figure of what your FICO score is going to be. Your Vantage score is not your FICO score, but it will give you a ballpark figure of what your FICO score is. So make sure that you do that. If you are in the credit repair challenge and you've invited some people, if you want to make sure that they saw this video, tag their name in the comment section of this video. Let them know that this was day 1. Make sure that they got it. If they have questions and you've been through the credit repair challenge and they've got questions on what they need to do, make sure you help them out, you answer their questions. But that's what we're here for in this community, is we're here to help each other out to make sure that we're moving towards that 850 credit score. All right. So make sure you do that. Make sure you tag the people if they haven't seen it. This video will be here in the group for replay. So you'll be able to get a replay of this video for as long as you need it. And tomorrow, we're going to cover the next factor of your credit score. Tomorrow is a very, very important day. So make sure that you tune back in to tomorrow so that you'll learn about other areas that can impact your credit score. This is June Collier signing out. God bless, take care, and we will see you tomorrow.